Hello and welcome. Today on this very special Let's Play, we are back to Crysis. And to talk about this, playing Crysis on a very special machine, I'm joined by my colleague, John Linneman. How you doing there, John?
Hey, Alex, how's it going? I think you forgot one thing there, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, typical me. I'm so excited to play Crysis that I can't think about anything else. But yes, we are playing Crysis again today on a very special machine that I teased on Twitter recently, where it's basically the Crysis machine, an 8800 GT, a Q6600, 8 gigabytes, which is quite a lot actually, of DDR2 at 800 megahertz. And I'm gonna hit the any key right now, Homer Simpson style, to play Crysis, basically the machine that a lot of people built to play this game back in the day. And John, were you running on similar hardware back then?
Yeah, but I think I had I can't even remember the number now, but it was the dual-core variant of the...
Oh, the E6600.
Yeah, it was the E6600, I think. Or actually, it might have been the E6750 or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yes, I also had the 8800 GT in there. I knew I was running 4 gigabytes of RAM rather than 8.
Yeah, same.
And yeah, I mean, I built that machine specifically to play this game.
And when you look at it right now, we're playing the retail version of Crysis right now, the 64-bit EXE, because it has better CPU performance, except for on the last level when it crashes in the retail version of the game. And as you can already see right here, the performance in the retail version of the game on very high is just brutal at this resolution. And oh my god. I'm playing at a 16:9 equivalent of 1024 by 768, so it's like 1150 something by 665 or some really odd resolution.
Basically the same pixel count, so this is kind of consistent with what you would have seen back then. Though personally, I was actually playing at 1366 by 768 on an HD TV, on a plasma, in fact.
So that would have actually looked really, really good. Did you play on very high back then? I hope not.
No. I think what I did was I played in DX9 mode with the glitchy motion blur sort of toggled, with more like high equivalents, and so, like I think it was very selective, and I spent a lot of time adjusting settings.
Yeah, for here this is retail DX10. I'm doing DX10s to prevent any sort of artifacts. With the motion blur, and also because there's technically a slightly different coloration, I think, to the sun or something like that. I don't know.
There is, yeah, you're right.
But like, if you see here, I'm sitting still. My FPS is around 21, 24, bobbing. But if I move the camera rapidly, the FPS dips pretty hard. The retail version of this game uses some unoptimized shaders, like for the motion blur. It's really great, you know, per object blur. Like I can shoot and you can see all that great per object blur. Oh my god, the frame rate.
Which again, per object blur in general was still really new at that point. Like this was not the first game to feature it, but it was definitely one of the earliest examples of it done well.
Yeah, and it's actually done spectacularly well in this game in terms of like almost too spectacularly well considering how poorly it runs, like 21 FPS. And
it was locked behind the DX10 setting, technically.
Yeah.
You could kind of enable it in DX9, but it did not work on all objects. There were glitches.
It looked a little awkward. But this is the way it was probably running on your 8800 GT machine back in the day. Obviously, what you would probably want to do is configure the settings, but even just raw dropping down to, let's go to high vary here, you can change basically every single thing in real time in Crysis, which was excellent.
Except object quality, I guess.
Except for object quality, because it needs to reload the level. So we'll do that. It'll get rid of things like per object blur. Also pretty sure it gets rid of parallax occlusion mapping.
I always remember using r_useEdgeAA at 2. That was like the way to go.
It's a little dark on this level to see the difference, but when this level's pretty cool. It's called the Harbor, and you kind of go in D-Day style, landing in while a bunch of like explosions are going off from artillery, and this is Psycho right behind me.
And I think this level was selected primarily because, one, it's one of the best levels in the game, but two, it's also one of the most demanding.
Yeah, it's crazy demanding. There's just so much AI going on, and once we get over to the ridge, you'll see why. It's basically just a free-for-all level, kind of perfect dark GoldenEye style. You go anywhere you wish to complete the number of objectives in the order that you want.
And see, that's what I love about this game, is that it's not an open world game. It's an open environment, sort of like, it's a very linear game with a lot of freedom within that linearity, which of course is my favorite style of design.
Oof,
you have this huge map to explore, but it's not so huge that it's pointless, right? You can always kind of see what you need to be doing or where you can go. There's a lot to see along the way.
It's like big and open, but at the same time very carefully well crafted. These
Exactly.
levels aren't so large that they were impossible to design for. You can go in a lot of really weird ways. Like the first time I played this mission, I swam through the water to get to one of the AA gun nests that you can see firing off in the distance here.
I mean, that's a Crysis staple right there. It's just finding your way to get to objectives however you want. And there's so many ways to approach them, and that's what I love about it.
Actually, I just realized that I did not pick up my favorite gun. I'm gonna go
I see
back.
motion blur is disabled currently.
Yeah, it's just right now screen blur.
Just a camera blur.
Yeah, just the camera blur, which in Crysis literally only covered rotations basically.
Yep.
Which looks it's not that great.
No, they improved that with the subsequent Crysis games.
Yeah, it looks much better. But as you can see right now on high graphics, this is retail once again, DX10. You're not seeing much of the DX10 splendor when you put it to high, but it's like 30, dipping below right now. I'm not using any VSync, so you're seeing a very tear-filled presentation.
And that's of course designed to make it easy to benchmark and get the real numbers. So this is an interesting game. When you play this with triple buffer VSync, it's somehow the way they handle like frame distribution somehow feels smoother than many other games. Like that is something that does vary per game. So like, running at just above 30 FPS can either feel terrible or not too bad. And in Crysis, it actually wasn't that distracting.
Do you see this? How the particles are lit up on my flashlight?
Oh, that's so good.
That is so good. And it's actually something that was primarily missing, I think, from Crysis 2, because they switched to a deferred renderer then.
Yeah.
And the way lights would mix with forward rendered things was different. So this game's like basically purely forward rendered, and you can get nice particle shading. There's even a command in the console, I believe, to turn on particle shadows. But we're not going to do that.
That's the kind of thing I love about Crysis, is that, people always say, oh, it's not optimized. But the fact is that this is a game that was sort of pioneering so many new techniques at once. And those techniques had not yet been mastered. So this was one of the first attempts to do all this stuff. So yeah, it's not going to be as efficient or fast as some of the other options we would see, but it's also usually done at a very high precision as well.
It's crazy high, like just even like on the high settings here, the shadow there, it's like Doom 3 level stencil. It's really high quality. If I recall, there's something weird with the bushes. Like they have they have really good looking.
They look good,
too. Yeah. So I'm gonna go run ahead here and try not to die. I'm playing on the easy setting. Usually I would play on Delta for Crysis, but this is a video where I'm talking the entire time, so it's not like I can actually concentrate super well.
Also, you're playing on this machine.
Oh yeah. Also, so this is what's happening right now. A bunch of AI is activated.
Yep.
You can see my GPU utilization. I was at 64%. Instead of earlier where at the beginning it was like cruising around 99 the entire time. Actually here I'm being completely CPU limited by 2.4 gigahertz Q6600.
Yep.
And this is like the death knell in Crysis back then. Like
that's still a problem today, honestly. That's one of the limitations
right? Like,
of the CPU.
Oh my God, this performance, Jesus, this is rough.
I feel like the only sections in this game that ran worse than this were the VTOL mission, which was removed from the console versions, and the very last boss fight, which always gave my PC serious troubles.
Yeah, oh gosh.
That thing on the carrier, that was rough.
See, like this. Thankfully, though, I'm playing on easy. This performance normally would have me probably like having to play very tactically here. But like all bits of the AI were done in a scripting language called Lua, if I recall. So it was very flexible for just any sort of gameplay programmer to get this game running and have great AI. But it was very single-threaded. As a result, and it ran like it is too. Like just now, we're getting this game up to 60 FPS and above on, highly overclocked Ryzen CPUs, like the most modern Ryzen CPUs, or, Core i7s and Core i9s.
So I think there's time for some context here to understand the situation in this time. And also, we'd like to look at more PC games in the future. So on Alex has his Q6600 machine, and I have an old Pentium 3 system with many graphics cards and a Pentium 4. So between that, I think it would be fun for us to revisit games like this and throughout history, across real PCs from that era, to remind people of what it was really like, because PC gaming today is not the same as it used to be.
No,
you have to remember, the machine you're using here to play this game was pretty high spec. It wasn't the highest spec, but it was close. This was not cheap hardware in 2007. A lot of people that purchased Crysis were not playing on a machine of this spec. So you can kind of understand why it has that reputation, because when it was new, it was really pushing machines. And that's the thing. That's what PC gaming was about for most of its existence until, I guess you could say, sort of like at the end of the 2000s, I guess. Or
that's basically it.
This was one of the last games.
Yeah, like you had I would say the only massive PC exclusives that were coming out after this were MMOs, the start of MOBAs, and I guess RTS games, which there was no large shooters that pushed tech anymore. And
it wasn't even so. It used to be, especially in the 90s and such, game publishers creating PC games were making them specifically for PC, and a lot of those top tier developers were really pushing the limits of what PCs could do. Origin Systems was super well known for this, with System Shock, Crusader No Remorse, Terra Nova, Cyber Mage, all those games. Wing Commander games, or even stuff from EA, U.S. Navy Fighters, for instance, was a huge one. That was known for. It was a beautiful game. Even games like MechWarrior 2, you could run that at 1024 by 768 in the mid 90s, which is insane. But most of the stuff didn't. If you wanted to really enjoy it, you really needed a powerful PC, and even then, you weren't seeing super high frame rates. What people know of today with super high frame rates on the PC, that's not what PC gaming was about until, in the last 10 years. And that's kind of due to the fact that, the cost of game production means that most companies are just focused on every platform instead of just the PC. So Star Citizen is really one of the few games left that actually follows this model.
Yes. And it's great for it. Here I'm trying to kill the obviously amazing sharpshooter boats. Look at these guys. Did I? No, I didn't. I'm gonna put on a scope. But speaking of that, when people would play games in the late 90s or early 2000s, to get super high frame rates on their CRT monitors, they would be turning things down like crazy. Quake 3, its low spec modes are very famous for that, for just kind of turning the game into something that looks like, I don't know, 1 by 2 pixel textures and things like that with lower quality models.
And beyond that, as we talked in our CRT videos, you could play at lower resolutions without as much of a consequence because they still looked good.
Yes, correct.
Where once you got flat panels, everybody wanted to run at the native resolution because anything else was blurry. So that was always kind of part of the issue as well. And I think that's I think this aspect of PC gaming is kind of central to why you especially have been very much in favor of the RTX and ray tracing stuff. And I think us at Digital Foundry in general are fond of it because that's how PC gaming used to be, right?
Yeah. And
pushing new technology that brought even the most expensive PCs to their knees. And it's not even that bad, honestly. Ray tracing stuff runs really well now.
Look at this game running. This is a common resolution type for that day.
Yeah.
Obviously 16:9 variant of it. And we're playing on the second to highest setting in the game at retail, and it's below 30 FPS. This game was pushing it so hard. And now, you put on RT, you're playing at, resolutions that are decidedly higher than this, and it's running a lot better on much more medium-end hardware.
And 2007 was also the year that games like Stalker released, which was a huge deal. That ran better than Crysis, but it was also an impressive feat. And prior to that, in previous years, obviously stuff like Far Cry, Doom 3, Half-Life 2, Fear, all of these games were designed to sort of push the PC platform when they hit. And even when the next-gen consoles like PS3 and 360 launched, on the tail, none of them could really handle these games that well.
No. Even, like the more multi-threaded version of Crysis that came out eventually on consoles did not run very well. We've got a lot of footage.
It actually kind of runs like this.
Yeah,
only without screen tearing. Kind of like this with no screen tearing.
But yeah, we're seeing one of the best parts about this level, I think, is that it starts off in nighttime, and then it slowly switches over to like midday. Like the Crysis had a cool flow graph system where you could control the time of day the way you wanted, but then you could also just let it run. And like now we're seeing it just run, and we're getting those nice, kind of God rays,
and this would,
rays.
At the time still, things like shadows that would adjust their position based on the position of the sun, shadow maps and such. That was still really new, I would say.
Oh, completely.
In 2007, so just seeing that in a game like this, that was a novelty, especially with a real-time time of day system like this. And I love that distant fog that they use.
Yeah, so good.
Which is it still holds up today. It really gives it this thick atmosphere that's, obviously sort of volumetric fog is a big thing these days, but they were finding interesting ways to simulate that effect at a distance. Back then, the atmospheric scattering.
Actually, the interesting thing is I'm pretty sure the guy who wrote that, Carsten Wenzel, is now working at Cloud Imperium Games in their...
It makes a lot of sense.
So you can see there's a kind of continuity there between Crysis and another PC exclusive. Also, lots of continuities between Crytek and the new IdTech engines, too, there.
That's right, absolutely.
Here I am kind of going through. Crysis is so spectacular, even on this machine at this frame rate, just for like the variety of tactical things you can do. I'm doing whatever I want right now. I don't have to go over here, but I kind of want to take out this AA gun. Let's do this.
You just got in that boat. You could have gone along the shore there, and there's a whole
experienced
different,
a completely different level, kind of like on that side. There's like jungle, and there's like a little town beyond this ridge that you can fight in. But here I'm going to take out the AA gun from behind, going all stealth tactical. This machine, I actually want the plan for this machine, other than to show it running in Crysis, which is the obvious thing to do with any PC, is to go back in time and look at Xbox 360 and PS3 ports with the kind of new eyes for performance that we have now, and obviously what we know about their settings back then, and comparing them again. Something that I really want to do.
Yeah, I think that has literally been an idea we've talked about for like 4 years now.
I know.
It's never happened. And now you have the machine to make it reality.
Yeah, and this machine too, it's a Dell Vostro 400. It's a refurbished system that was probably sitting in some sort of, warehouse for just like a decade. Let's do that. I'm so sorry.
I love that.
Yeah, it was sitting in a warehouse for a decade, was refurbished. The inside of it is just pristine. In fact, most of the casing still looks really, really good. It has like a tiny scratch on it here or there. And the 8800 GT that is inside of this machine is like a reference design that I've never seen any before, because back in the day I used an EVGA 8800 GT in SLI to play this game.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll talk about that in a second, but it looks really, really good. 6-pin power connector, dual DVI-D out, and an S-Video. So you could play this on, S-Video stuff. I don't know why you'd want to, but it has its uses. But the thing is, back in the day, playing this on an 8800 GT and SLI, I was seeing frame rates that were a little less than double than this. And I played at 1024 by 768 initially. But the problem, very high as well too, but the thing was, I didn't know what it was back in the day, but there was micro stutter. We put next to a friend's machine with an 8800 GTX and played the benchmark right next to each other, and mine had a higher frame rate, but just looked worse, and I wasn't sure, why, and this is before really there was kind of frame time analysis at all.
Exactly, that didn't exist yet, and like a lot of us, we saw that drove me nuts, that micro stutter, as they called it. It just looked awful.
Yeah.
But nobody really had a good way to describe it or like a name for it outside of, I guess, micro stutter. But it's like, but why is it looking like that?
Yeah, but yeah, like the question, why?
Now
who
we
knew
know,
back
but
then?
back
Yeah.
then we did not.
That was a problem with SLI for the longest period of time, and actually any multi-GPU configuration. Crossfire was plagued by it as well.
Ironically, that was not the case with one of the first, which was the original SLI scanline interleave, which, as the name implies, it was alternating scan lines between the two Voodoo 2 graphics cards.
Way better way to do it, honestly.
Yeah, that does not cause those issues.
It also doesn't cause the problem where alternate frame rendering, like this would be using in SLI mode, would also. Geez, where are all these people shooting at me from? So this is one of my first objectives. Alternate frame mode also adds in 1 frame of input latency as well.
Oh yes.
Boom. Geez,
that's such a thing where the explosion happens, he puts down the detonator, and then you see the fists come up.
It's so like there's a lot of really great things in Crysis, like when you get on the ground and you move forward and you can see your fists are also moving on the ground too.
And no palm enabled, I see.
Yeah,
that's fine.
No palm right here because I put it down to high.
Yep.
I mean, I could run up the 1.21 version of the game on a mix of high settings and very high settings and it would run better. But I think just for now, retail's this is what it was.
I'd be curious to see what happens because I remember one of the console variables lets you adjust the distance the foliage is rendered, and you can essentially you could throw it back to like 0 or something, and so that there's basically no visible foliage and you just see the terrain.
We can give that a try in a second. Here, let me, because this guy's just gonna annoy me the entire time with his precision rifle. I presume he has.
Being that this is Crysis, not Far Cry, there is no "I'm gonna shoot you in the face" quips.
Yeah, no, I'm just getting Yankee second and no wait, I'm playing on easy, so they're saying like "Die, you American pig." It's so
no,
horrible.
They still say Yankee second or whatever.
I wish I knew Korean. Come on, go. The thing is, at a distance, bullets, I'm pretty sure in Crysis do less damage, which is interesting if they have armor on. So let's give that a try. Let's get a look at an overlook here.
Just be careful.
Gosh.
The North Koreans can't know we're here.
I know, right?
The North Koreans can't know we're here.
They won't even know what hit them.
It's E.
It's one of the veg.
I hit E and it's grabbing them all up. Yes.
Yeah.
Crysis uses voxels, by the way, people, to do its cave system and all of the kind of internal alien levels as well. And in the sequel, they had, or not sequel, Warhead, they had ice caves made with voxels. Vegetation. Yeah, E-view distance vegetation. Okay,
E-view
something's
distance
shooting
ratio.
at me.
Yeah, ratio of vegetation or something. Yeah, it's one
I'll
of
do
those.
that in a second. Let's just get rid of these people pestering me. There's probably more. The thing is, Crysis's AI is pretty awesome. I actually like it quite a lot. You can play with it, but at times, like in certain portions of the AI, are very unfair, like helicopters. Like
one of my issues that I've always had with the AI in the Crysis games is that there's not much of a gray area. Mm-hmm. They either are not aware of you or they are fully aware of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And 100%. So they just kind of come at you, and that I've always said that a good gray area is really important to a game with like a stealth system. You know what I mean? Like
they should have more seeking modes almost. Like
yeah, like it's very fun to have an enemy that's basically searching for the player.
Okay.
So you can't go too realistic with it. Okay.
24 FPS, E-view distance ratio.
Vegetation.
Okay. 45. Let's go to 0. Oh gosh. For some reason, that actually destroyed performance while making the game look worse.
That looks so.
I'm not sure why.
There's got to be something like. Is there? Is something occluded by the vegetation that's normally not?
I mean, this looks kind of interesting. This looks like graphic demos from the 90s.
Yeah, that looks very, very different.
But this is running really bad. So let's not do that.
Okay, go up to. Take it up to like 100.
Yeah. So that'll reduce it, the frame rate. Yeah, frame rate's down, increasing the distance at which vegetation occurs at. That's like, I'm now at the low 20s the entire time. This is so brutal. I'm sorry for everyone watching this, by the way. This probably must look really brutal in full screen mode at this resolution and at this frame rate. Not very pretty, but but it looks, surprisingly smooth due to the motion blur. Let's put that back down to 45. Oh, not 145. Jeez.
Oh no. Yeah,
45.
that's a setting. One of those settings that can still crash the modern PCs, as we did on mine.
Yeah.
When cranking it up to like as far as you could possibly imagine. I love that it's possible though. You can just push that vegetation all the way out if you want.
This is a great scene to show the performance hit of using SSAO, because you can see it all here. The reason why there's any sort of like shadow look to these objects is due to SSAO.
That was a huge deal at the time. Even if it's an early implementation, it looks very Halo-y.
Performance though, when I look in this corner, do you see how high it is?
Yeah, it's quite smooth.
It's like almost 60 for some reason, which is rare. Our SSAO. Let's see how much it costs. Oh, so it's about 10% of the performance.
Wow, look at that.
It's okay.
And that looks so much worse without it, though.
It looks so much worse.
Objects.
This is like what basically every other game looked like that used real-time lighting.
It also looks like a Trespasser. Well, no.
Everything just looks like Trespasser when you're on an island. We could probably make this look like Trespasser if we tried hard enough with playing with the LODs.
Maybe so.
But yeah, SSAO, back then, about 10% of your performance on an 8800 GT. But so crucial to getting the game to look the way it really was designed to look. Like, that's a really big difference.
It is, yeah. The thing is I remember playing around with like the SSAO darkening and other settings to sort of tweak it. The problem is you could make it look great in some scenarios, but then you'd go into another area and it was awful. So it takes a lot of work to balance it to look its best. And
that's the thing about like kind of SSAO. It just being a post-process, like the way how dark it is, how much of a contact shadow it leaves is all just kind of like artist depending settings. It's not actually some like physical threshold there that's being crossed, because it's just a post-process. Ray tracing helps that quite a lot by making it much more physically based. Wow, this area I can barely remember it, but it looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I should be going over to if I recall, there's banana fields, and then you can go inside a warehouse.
Yeah, there's some warehouses
in front of this?
along the far side of the coast there. It brings back, because when I first played through this mission, like all the way back in the day, I actually had to reload and restart it because my save, the final helicopter, basically found itself too far up in the sky.
No way.
You pulled out the scope, you could see it up there buzzing around, but it couldn't come down.
Oh god.
And there was no easy way to kill it. And looking back, I probably could have found a console command to sort of fly up there and take it out. But that was still early days. So
I had that on the Tomb mission, the one where you go down the river delta.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Same thing happened there too, to me. So funny thing, if you saw it here, I just had a frame time lurch that was huge. What is shooting at me? Is that a helicopter above? Oh,
yes,
son of a...
It is. Speak of the devil.
I hate helicopters in Crysis. Sorry. I'm going to let that come back around. But I had a huge frame time lurch because if you look at the amount of GPU VRAM being used by Crysis, it's skirting just a little bit below 512 megabytes, which is all this GPU has access to. So occasionally, when it streams in a new texture that is too large for actually that entire RAM, bit of VRAM, it'll lurch the performance down and you'll get a stutter. So, like, here's the thing, is they can see you through trees. Where's the fun there? Come on. And I missed, probably, because, that's the way these things work. Okay, I'm going to
this frame rate
on. Yeah. I mean, it's all CPU related here. My GPU usage, I can barely shoot this guy due to my frame rate. My GPU usage is really low, 65, 70. Let's save that for the
I wouldn't say it's really low, but it's fairly fairly reasonable, and it's more like it just shows how
intense Crysis was.
There's so many different elements at work here as to why you'd have performance issues. It's not just a single, it's bottlenecked across the board.
Let's see if I can do this now. No. Ugh. I could shoot it with a grenade launcher, but I don't know. There should be some. Usually there's.
See, every time when the combat starts to ramp up, the frame rate issues really start to become apparent.
Yeah, with like the GPU effects going on.
Yeah, I remember in the second level when the tanks roll in the school there, that was always a demanding sequence.
Yes, let's get some of that intel. Big thing about being forward rendered is that every single time a light spawns, a lot of the geometry in the scene's being redrawn.
Exactly. Lights are so expensive.
Look at this. I checkpointed in the middle of a house blowing up on top of
I
me.
love that the house can blow up. That's
I
still
know,
one
right?
of my
Like,
favorite
think
things about
that.
this game.
These shanty houses that just go... Okay, I'm going to have to try and avoid this. I can't believe I missed it.
I mean, that's exactly one of the main things. Like, all the physics and destructible objects which factored into gameplay, like, none of that stuff exists in Crysis 2 and 3.
Do you think I can hit it with a grenade launcher, John?
No.
No.
I was right. Sorry, Alex. I have faith in you, but on this
Not that much.
not on this PC at this level of performance.
Oh, gosh, look at all these baddies right here. Yeah, so like that would tank performance pretty easily every single time a light is spawned.
Yeah.
That's why deferred rendering was such a big deal back in the day.
Exactly.
Many more lights, but also flatter performance for the lights you have.
Yeah, you could do so many lights without really impacting the frame rate. Unlike this, where
Yeah, the sequel, on the other hand, went to deferred, and it even had a tiled deferred option in the editor that you can mess with, which was pretty cool, which was super rare back in the day. Oh my god, I just hit it.
oh, you okay?
You can, I guess, okay, it's firing rockets at me.
Oh no,
On easy, I died.
That's the Crysis experience.
That's the Crysis experience. And I think, you know what, I think we should get going in a minute here, but before we go, I think I'm going to show kind of the level that should bring this computer downtown, which is Ascension.
Oh yes.
Which is basically the level that was cut from consoles due to quote-unquote gameplay reasons, but I think it's probably because of the performance. Let's put this actually back to very high. So let's go back to the menu and put everything back to very high to show what that looked like. I also do have an 8800 GTX, which runs this game much better on the very high settings and high settings as well. And most people with an 8800 GTX could, that's the weird resolution, could probably play this game at very high at 1024 by 768 and even 1280 by 1024 with a lower frame rate and mitigating some settings. It was just that was the best GPU of the day. And actually one that could last for years afterwards. It was still really good. But as I was saying, I'm pretty sure Ascension was cut from the game due to performance reasons, as we'll see very soon.
Yeah.
Speaking of performance, another thing that I really want to do with this PC is compare how the Q6600, went over time past the Xbox 360 generation into the modern gen. How well does it compare to console ports that are running right now, like early gen console ports to late gen console ports? It still has 4 cores, and Rich has looked at it before. Its performance per core is like kind of very similar to the Jaguar.
I'm actually really curious though to see how late gen PS3 and 360 games run on this PC.
Yeah, right?
Like if you go to like say Far Cry 4 or something.
Oh gosh, that's a good point. Far Cry 4, I forgot that released on late gen.
I mean, it could do 3 or 4.
Look at this performance, by the way, 15 FPS. That was all GPU right there.
Yeah.
There's just like depth of field, crazy amounts of motion blur.
Yeah, their cutscenes were always crazy with this. I loved it.
They look so good. Okay.
I mean, it's
Okay,
it's similar frame rates to what we were just seeing.
So there's some really cool stuff in this level, like the volumetric clouds that I'm flying into. These are using actually like the volumetric system of clouds.
Oh, I love that.
Even Crysis 2 didn't have. But the performance here, just look at it. This is CPU and GPU, because sometimes I'm below.
It's actually not that different from what you were just playing, though, to be honest. Let's see how it fares in combat.
Yeah, I guess we should wait to see when one of the tornadoes kicks up, because they'll like move a bunch of physics objects around. As you can see though, like the game has multi-threading. 2 cores are being used substantially, with one having much more going on. But I'm GPU limited right now, so they're not completely pegged out. And then, like cores 3 and 4, I'm pretty sure like physics had its own thread as well. It wasn't multi-threaded physics, just it had its own thread.
This is a very cinematic game.
Yeah, it's just this frame rate is very cinematic right now. This is very hard.
I mean, this is kind of how Far Cry 3 and 4 run on PS3.
On the base. Yeah. Arguably, I mean, they're going to be tearing. Isn't that one also tearing on PS3?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful.
Oh, I cannot get these at all. The kind of weighty. Oh, there we go. See, I love those explosions too. And when we get inside the sphere later on, seeing all those really cool ice particle effects, and like they made a shader version. Basically, they had trouble like arting this game up for all the sections that were going to be covered in ice, because what, do you make new objects? Like, well, how do you do that? But they ended up coming up with a way to like cover everything in a shader that makes it look like snow's there.
It was cool. It was very effective.
Which is cool for the time. Very effective. Saved them a lot of art time, I would imagine. Oh geez, this just looks so good. Even now.
It does look good.
Oh, here we go. Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna try and avoid that tornado.
So this, okay, there we go. It seems to mostly be in the
18?
18 to 21 range most of the time.
Yeah, and it's primarily GPU limited.
Yeah,
which is
it's just sitting there at the top almost the entire time. 99.
I'm sucked into the to the tornado. By the way, this is not good. Oh no. Oh no. How do we get it out of the tornado even? Sorry to embarrass myself once again with my performance here in this game. I'm just being whacked around inside of a tornado, and somehow I'm still alive. I think I'm gonna...
There are arguments to be made that the tornado stuff was a bad decision.
Yeah, it's cool from a technical standpoint. I mean, look what's happening to my character model after I die. It's cool from a technological standpoint, much like the kind of nuke going off in multiplayer is cool from a technical standpoint, but actually getting sucked into a tornado is not fun at all. I have to avoid all of these. But yeah, I would love to see your comments below to see what other games I should try out on this rig. Obviously, Crysis is the first thing you play in a game, but like, what would you actually like to see? Kind of like the old Call of Duty series, Assassin's Creed, even modern games on this 8800 GT Q6600. Some of them are possible to run, with like emulated DX11 and things like that. There's so much that could be done, and even looking at stuff like Doom 3, Half-Life 2. All those games. So, but yeah, tell me what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this quick look back here at Crysis running on original hardware, retail version running much like it did back then. And if you did enjoy it, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, well, consider hitting that little bell in the corner to be informed as soon as Digital Foundry posts a video. If you want to talk to John or myself about 8800 GTs, Q6600s, and Crysis, write a comment below or follow John and myself on Twitter. And as always, this is John and Alex bidding you auf Wiedersehen und
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.